Okay, let's see. Have I remembered to do all the things I need to do to stream? I am sure hoping so. As Little Red had mentioned on her stream, I had a hard drive failure on my main computer, and I think I got everything transferred off before the hard drive just gave up the ghost. But here it is, this little misbehaving thing, which, part of me finds it hard to believe that you can stick 2 terabytes onto something that size anyway. I think they're just making that up. But have a brand new one, gonna DRM that one, and maybe get a replacement. We'll see. And in the meantime, OBS, which is what I use for streaming, keeps all of its settings in a nice, easy to find location for moving over to the new machine. So if I've been talking and you can't hear me, now's a great time to mention that. But otherwise, I'm going to assume that everything is working. We'll see. Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we finished up the new Herbalism Helper plugin, which predicts what phials you're going to get out of an herb in North Ithilien and the Wastes, where I was spending a whole bunch of time because that's where Treebeard was before everything came crashing down. So today we're going to continue improving the deed tracker preprocessor that I was doing a little while back that I use as part of doing a deed updates for deed tracker. And we're also going to release an updated version of deed tracker because we do have a lot of deeds that have crept in between the previous release, which was 43.4, and where we are right now, which is 45.3. That's like 2.8 releases or something. I don't think it works like that, but lots of deeds. Lots of them are birding deeds, and a few of them are in other places in Herbalism, in the Imhular tab. And I haven't been in Herbalism because I've been on Treebeard for a while, and that meant we were too low level for it. But I hear there's lots of stuff there. But very exciting are the extra birding deeds. Now I have a fresh deed tracker here, so I don't have any deeds marked. But beyond Eriador and Rohan and the Great River, we now have Gondor and Mordor birding deeds in deed tracker. So that'll be good to get out there so people can start tracking that as well. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and share my desktop. Okay, so that was something that did not come over. My desktop broadcasting was set to the other screen, which gives you a nice infinite recursion if you're not careful. But we got that set up while Little Redhead was streaming. Okay, so what are we talking about? This is Deed Tracker. For anyone who doesn't know, it helps you track your deeds. There's no access for a plugin to poke at your character directly and say which deeds are or are not completed. So we have to keep an eye on your chat channels, and when your chat says completed : something, that's either a quest or a deed, because under the covers those are kind of the same thing as far as the LOTRO game engine is concerned. And then we figure out, is it a deed? Okay, which one? Okay, great, we mark it off. So that's Deed Tracker. So it only really works to fullest extent if it is running while you are playing. Unfortunately, it's also a bit of a memory hog because there's a lot of deeds in the game, but it kind of is what it is at this point. Okay, there are things I have thought about to fix that, but I don't know. There's problems with that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is take a look at our source control and see what I've done over the last couple of days. So there was a bug in the previous release for birding, and what this is concerning hierarchy. We have a little note that says how far indented is this deed, and that's how we represent the hierarchies. So all the birds of Breland would be an indent of 0, and then birds of Breland common and uncommon, rare, and the rarest bird in Breland would all have an indent of 1. And then the next thing has an indent of 0, showing that hierarchy has ended, and now we have a new one potentially. And we just missed that all of the birds of wherever, pretty sure it was in the Westfold, no, Croftlands, I think. All the birds of Croftlands was indented 1, so that meant if you completed all the birds of Fangorn, then you got all 7 of these other deeds marked off whether or not you had done them. So a bit of a bug fix there. We have updated deeds. Now, most notably, let's see. We have done Shuma, the King's Fortress deeds. These are going into instances and the Legacy of Morgoth. Again, I haven't done anything with the Legacy of Morgoth, so I hope that's the King's Fortress is strong, weak. I'm not sure which side of things you're on, but I hope it's great. And then we do have a Leading the Charge deed associated with that presumably is only good for so long. Okay, we have the Birds of Gondor and Mordor. That's all of those. We have some new monster play reward track items. Nomog Chris says, is this a LOTRO dev stream? Not in the sense that I work for SSG, I do not, but it is a plugin development stream focused on Lord of the Rings Online plugins. So if you like code or if you like watching someone not playing Lord of the Rings Online, you are in the right place. I mean, it's there in the background. We're not going to do a whole lot of it. I may try to find a golden egg, though. Under the war, under Etenmors, we now have Season of the Nemesis, Season of Malice, Season of Scorn, and Season of Spirit titles in the Free People's side of things. Now, there are corresponding deeds for Monster Play characters, but I've never made an attempt to make Deed Tracker work for Monster Play, partially because there's just not that many of them. Comparatively to Free People's deeds. Also, because on Treebeard, where I've been spending the majority of my LOTROing time over the last few years, there is no PvMP. That's just a general legendary server thing, no PvMP. So I didn't have a testbed with which to find out more about it. Maybe monster players are clamoring for a Deed Tracker style thing over there, but for right now, that's not where Deed Tracker is paying attention. So yes, there are the Free People's version of this. We did have a couple of the Monster Play deeds that slipped through. I should have known from the titles that Angmar's Enforcer and Abomination and Servant of Shadow probably weren't the Scourge of the Etenmors. These probably were not Free People's deeds, but oh well. So those have actually been strucken from the listing, and in their place we have Bearer of Truth, Benevolence Incarnate, the Respected Voice, and the Spirit's Guide. One of those is not correctly marked in-game as a monster play in the data files, as far as I can tell, but hopefully it sorts itself out if you're actually playing. We have a couple of new deeds for the Midsummer, Cat Confusion and Guests Gathered. I did not have spend the time on getting those on my main completionist character this year, so that's a next year sort of thing. A lot of these look different because dictionaries in Lua can be numerically indexed, and so if you stick something in the middle, the numerical indices of everything after change, even if nothing else does. And one thing we can do is we can tell our comparison program, in this case I'm using Beyond Compare, we can tell it some custom rules. What's not important? And so we might go ahead and say, we don't care about any numeric character, one or more of those, and I cannot remember, but I think braces are going to be a problem. So we're going to go ahead and escape those as well. So backslash and backslash, and we're going to say that's unimportant. And now we see those are colored blue. That means we're currently in a comparison mode in Beyond Compare that says if there is a minor difference, this is a difference that's normally just white space, like maybe you have a tab instead of spaces or you have an extra space, non-meaningful minor changes, then go ahead and show it. But we can go ahead and say don't show us some minor changes, and then suddenly this file looks very different. So that's the thing that you can do when you're trying to convince yourself of the scope of your changes, is yes, technically we changed 200 lines of stuff, but only in those indices that we have no real control over. They have to be numerically ascending for other stuff that we're doing to work. And so, in order to insert something here, this one has to move to 122 instead of 120, and so on for several hundred entries. But we don't actually have to care about that. And same thing, the lion's roar here, we can see had some extra spaces. They're no longer there. So if we go ahead and turn off minor changes, we're going to be paying attention just to the stuff we actually care about. Okay. And you can do this with more complicated things. And if you're not familiar with regular expressions are a way of saying something like this, not exactly 5 spaces and the word apple, but in this case, it was exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, exactly 10 spaces, and then an open bracket, and then one or more digits. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then a close bracket. So pretty rigid, but the main thing I was caring about there is I wanted to be at the start of the line pretty definitely. I wanted to have that white space there. And has to have an open and closing brace, but I don't really care what the number is in there. And that's a really simple regular expression. They can get much more complicated than that. And so that's a way of pattern matching, and it's called a regular expression. If you're not familiar with them, they can be very powerful. They can be very inscrutable, and there's a whole bunch of really useful tools out there where you say, well, I have this regular expression. What does it mean? And it will kind of step you through every bit of it to be like, well, this is saying this, and this is saying this, and this is saying this. And then you can often on these same places say, well, what happens if I try that regular expression against this text? And it'll be like, well, this part matches and this part doesn't. And that can really help break apart some of these more complicated regular expressions into something reasonably understandable. Okay, so we have those birds. Excellent. We have fixed up the war deeds a little bit. We have 2 new midsummer deeds, and we have... oh, yes, some extra deeds in the Imhalar region. Now, I don't know why Hamât and its various deeds have suddenly popped up here instead of Urashtar. Again, I'm not doing endgame content at the moment. So I just see that they have come, and I have put them there, and hopefully that works. And people will be like, oh yes, those are supposed to be in there. There were also 3 different reputation factions that appeared in the data files, but they are currently marked as hidden equals true. So they are, in theory, not doable in-game. But they're interesting to see what might be coming down the pipeline. Sometimes it's experiments that developers do that don't ever come to fruition, and sometimes it's just kind of an early access where we can see what will be there a little bit earlier than before it's actually there, because it sneaks into the releases. Having a source control system where you can have a test bed for ideas and be absolutely certain they don't get into production is a lot less trivial than it might sound. And I don't know if that sounds easy, but sometimes things just get in there and you're like, ooh, I wish they weren't there. Or sometimes you don't actually care because there's no way to access it from within the game, which is how you expect 99.9% of your player base to do this. And so you don't really mind if a little sneak peek of something gets in there if it's not too exciting. And that can make life easier if you don't have to keep these completely segregated, especially with the internal ID system that they use gives me lots of questions about, I wonder how they manage X. And this is one of those things. So those are the new deeds that are coming into this release of Deed Tracker. And one of the things I did not do while I was doing all of this work over the last couple of days was make notes about what's going on. So let's go ahead and come on into our readme.txt. And we're going to go ahead and say these are changes for something. Now, do I know? I'm currently on 321, but I don't remember if that's where we are online. So let's come on in here. 321. Oh, okay, I did do stuff. What did I do for the 321 release? Fixed several obsolete run keeper accidentally marked as Lore Master. Yeah. It's been so long. When was this? This was April? It was weeks ago. That was 316. Oh, I see what happened. I I had a problem with how I did the release, and so this was actually 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, that's good. Did I fix that over here? 3, 2, 1. Yep, 3, 2, 1. Great. Okay, this is actually going to be 3, 2, 2. It's not just minor stuff. I mean, it is kind of minor stuff. Yeah. Okay, 3, 2, 2. So let's write down some notes of what we've done. Where'd that go? Okay, I'm going to make this smaller. And bring this back. Okay, so 3, 2, 2 deeds. That was there. We're going to go ahead and do some other things, though. In-game class versus epic, then instances. Okay, instances. And this is the Legacy of Morgoth, I think. Yep. Added. Yeah, this is going to be easier down here. Oof. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do some copy pasting for that. There we go. So we're going into data files and into deed info. Vanquisher Dun Sherma. Great. That's what we want. Dun Sherma the King's Fortress. Added Dun Sherma the King's Fortress deeds. Okay. What else? We also added Gondor and Mordor, so that's going to be under hobby. So hobbies, birding, added Gondor and Mordor deeds. The War Common. Removed a few monster player deeds that were accidentally included. Added seasonal title deeds. Okay. Finally, this is going to be class race epic. No, where is this? Why is that there? Don't know. Very strange. But we're going to go ahead and say that is going to be class race epic. And that's going to be race and epic, I believe we just saw. Cat Confusion. Excellent deed name and title. Okay, that is race and social. Okay, race and social. Added to Midsummer deeds. Okay, and then finally we have prod with whatever this was. Imhlar. Added Hamât deeds. Great. Okay, awesome. So that was the thing we did. Also, the previous thing, fixed a hierarchy of birds, birding, fixed an issue with whatever that was. Okay, great. And I definitely had someone report that to me. I didn't find that yet, but thank you very much to whoever submitted that particular bug report. Really appreciate it. I don't know if they want to be named on stream. Okay, so that was that commit. Great. The previous commit was in April, so I feel like I don't need to go back any further. We added a new conflicting quest in Russian. This is one of the new deeds, so I'm not going to call it out in a user-facing note because they wouldn't have seen this before. But a conflicting quest is one where the deed and the quest have the same name. And like I said before, what we get as a plugin is something in the chat channel that says we completed X. And if X is both a quest and a deed, we need to know which that is in order to know if you completed a deed. Now, the simplest thing is where the deed and the quest are the same name because it's an instance, like something tier 1, where you complete the quest and that completes the deed. Awesome, perfect. They're not conflicting at all. They are the exact same action. Completing one necessarily completes the other. But then there's other things like Workslayer, where there are deeds called Workslayer, and there's also a quest in the North Downs called Workslayer. And you can do what you can to try to rule these things out. But this is a quest that is not a conflict in any of the other languages, but the Russian fans named the deed and the quest the same thing, and I don't think that was the right approach, but maybe it makes more sense in Russian. So we just have a new entry. It was automatically generated by my processing tool for that. Awesome. But since it wasn't previously customer-facing and it's part of this other thing, adding the deeds, then it doesn't go in the release notes. And I say customer-facing, it's just, observable by players who are using the plugin. Customer-facing is just words that come from my day job as a software engineer, which is, something else. There's no one paying me for this. Okay, this was an internal thing, and then encoded indents into deed info. Awesome. That did not change anything that players should be able to see. Oh, actually no. That fixed a few indents. I automated how the indents are generated into this file in a different way, and it found some issues. So that's a reputation tab. Class, race, epic, reputation. At this point, I feel like I should indent that even more. Nah, I'm just making extra work for myself. Okay, fixed indentation for renewal of Gondor, reputation, Gondor. Sugosi says, gives before a cookie. Well, thank you very much for the cookie. I do appreciate a good cookie, although I appreciate a good bagel even more, and while I was recently visiting the United States, I got to have several. Okay, what was this? These were Enemy of the Wolves. This was I think a Mariner deed? Let's come in and check that out. Yes, River Hobbit. So, race and social. Yeah, okay. Race and social, fixed indentation for several River Hobbit deeds. We're going to actually remove all that context. I just want to see the stuff that's changed. Enemy of the Wood Trolls was also a River Hobbit. Enemy of the Orcs and Goblins. These were also indentation ones. Were they also River Hobbit ones? Nice and consistent, at least. Yeah, I had some indentation problems there. And then, yes. This was Vanquish of Dil Irmis, which is in Umbarbarhabel. Okay, so that was Haradwaith, Umbarbarhabel, fixed indentation with several Slayer deeds. Awesome. So Ghost, he says, sounds good. Never had a really good bagel. I mean, obviously, taste is subjective, and people will find different things like bagels, good or bad, depending on so many factors, but including but not limited to upbringing and exposure. But the bagel culture in the Netherlands, I don't know. Like our grocery stores have both kinds of bagels, plain and sesame, kind of thing. So when I go back to the U.S., there are bagels that are more to my taste available in more places. So I tend to overindulge a lot. I mean, even something like a chain like Einstein Brothers Bagels is great, right? And you can find some really interesting local chains, which I did as well. And they can vary wildly. I was in Canada for a minute and went to a Tim Hortons, and they're kind of they're fine. Tim Hortons is fine too, but I'm sure there are some people who would say that's the best thing ever. Although maybe they like them more for donuts. I don't know. But yeah, I was able to satisfy my desire for bagels for a few minutes anyway. Okay, fixed indentation with several Slayer deeds. So this was actually a thing. I was expecting there to be absolutely no change with these files. And it turns out, no, there was a change because I had missed some things that this revealed. And we can go ahead and double check that. This is in the Renewal of Gondor, so let's go take a look at that. It's going to be under Reputation, and it's going to be pretty far down here. Okay, so we can see known, friend, ally, kindred, and respective are all tabbed what looks correct. The River Hobbit ones I can't easily check without changing something, so let's see how we would do that. If we go into our plugin functions and we say get race, and what we're really looking for is 125. So we're going to go ahead and say, nope, don't actually return what it is. Instead, return 125. So if we unload dtracker and come back in, what we're going to find is our race. This is going to be Enmity of the Wolves, River Hobbit. So we can see those are indented nicely now. So that was something that was missing. Awesome. Let's fix that. And now we can see, I said reload. Oh, of course, I didn't bring the reloader when I was moving stuff around before. Okay, now we can do it. It's a fun thing about plugins, if you aren't already aware, there is no functionality where a plugin can tell the game, please unload me and then reload me. There is a way to say, please load a plugin, and there's a way to say, please unload the current apartment, or unload an apartment. But as soon as you unload the apartment, the thing that was about to say, please load this plugin, doesn't exist anymore. So the workaround is you have a second plugin, in this case, a reloader plugin. And when this one is loaded, its job is to load the other one. And you could do this for... you'll see this in plugins like Mini Raid and Titan Bar. You'll have some extra ones that they'll say, like, don't use this. It's fine. You can use it, whatever. It just won't do anything useful. So in this case, reload says, okay, load this one, whose job is to unload dtracker and then load dtracker. And when dtracker comes up, it says, oh, is dtracker reloader loaded? If so, unload it. And so by their two powers combined, you can bounce back and forth and achieve a reload of the apartment. But if you accidentally move your .plugin file away while you're preparing for a stream, it's not going to work. Segosi says, nice, you can get them plain here in Denmark, and they are often very dry. Little Reddit says, plain and dry bagels sounds pretty sad. Yeah, I'm sure there's some people who love a plain dry bagel. It's just not what I'm looking for. For me, a freshly baked everything bagel will hit the spot most times. Okay. I, and I really should just learn how to make them at home, but I think, like with a lot of baked goods, if you start doing that, you'll end up with far more than you can easily eat. So I'll have to figure out how to make that work. Okay, so that was the River Hobbit deeds, and then we have the Rat Slayer of the Mok, and that is going to be in Broadway, Umbar Harbel, and that was the Rat Slayer and Bat Slayer. Let's see if we can find those manually. All right, Rat Slayer and Bat Slayer are correctly indented under Vanquisher of Deliverance. Okay, great. So those all look good here. So Chris says we'll have to try to make them myself. Ithilien says, don't forget about baked bats. I don't think I know what that means. Okay, moving on. That was the last thing in Code of the Indents. So that is, in theory, everything that's going to be a part of this release for Deed Checker. I figured I would do whatever I was going to do for the next couple of minutes, and then do the release at the end of the stream, which will be in about an hour. That I'll start doing that if I have the energy for a full stream tonight, which I feel pretty good so far. So let's come on in. Oh, that was LOTRO interface. That's the forums. Oh, by the by, in case you did not hear, the old forums are going away this week, probably a part of tomorrow's reset if they're not gone already. Something tells me that they are still there. Let's take a look. Okay, so if you are someone who has put things on the forums that you would find useful in the future, and I mean the old forum, so you have to go to forums-old.lotro.com, or if you had something there that you found useful that you want to save, you have like less than 12 hours to be really sure that you're going to get that, and maybe a few more than that. So I encourage you to go save it off via whatever mechanism you think is good for saving forum pages. Don't forget, if your page if you have more than one page of things, don't forget to tab to each page, and if you want to grab that information. There are tools that can automate this kind of thing, or you can just go to each page and do save as, and it'll try to save for the things on that page, and it may be able to grab images that are on that page. Depending on what tool you're using, you may want to check: did it grab images? Did it grab emojis? Did it grab whatever? Usually, if you save it off, though, any links that are on that page are still going to point back to where they originally pointed to. So this thing up here, user interface and low scripting, that is pointing to a location that is also scheduled to be nuked. So just be aware of that. Okay, so just an FYI, be aware of the forums getting nuked in the very near future, and save off anything that you need now. But in the meantime, let's go look at Deed Checker. Now I have, oh, that is interesting. Hang on, let me sign into GitHub. Great. So I have a GitHub repository for Deed Tracker, and I'm trying to use the issues more now than just sticking them into a text file. It's a little less simple, but we're trying to step up our game here a little bit here at Plugin Along. So we can take a look at some of the things that are in here. And some of them may have already been completed. For instance, persist current region when unloading plugin. I feel like I've done that at some point in the past. This sounds familiar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come take a look at, I don't know, I'm just going to search for a region and see what pops up. Okay, I want to say I'm looking for like the save files, maybe? Yeesh. I would like all of these to be minimized. What am I looking for? I'm looking for, where do we load stuff? Okay, load data. Please take me to that. Okay. Oh, I know what I should be thinking is let's go look at the save file itself. So for that, I'm going to go navigate to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugin Data, Account, Server, and Character, and then Detracker Settings. So I should be in Shire, Region. Okay, none of that. Oh. Okay, so things were in the Shire. So fascinating. Okay, so I have done something like this before, and maybe it was in Titan Bar. Feels weird that I would have done it in Titan Bar before doing it here, but I was doing a lot of testing in Titan Bar, and it was a lot more obvious. So if we go into Hamât plugins over there, Titan Bar, and settings. Okay, load settings. Is it here? Gotta love things that say remove after October 2013. That did not happen. Must have been in a different branch. Okay, so what we want to do is if we have a setting, and let's come on in and see where this is in the code. But if we have a setting, we want to save it off, and when we load, if it has been less than, say, a minute, then this is probably someone like me, a developer, or someone who unloaded all their plugins and then is reloading their plugins, and they're probably in the same place. You give it too long, like an hour, and it's probably not in the same place, or maybe not. But better to think unknown and then move to an actual area than to get it wrong. So we only want to give us a small amount of grace time on this. So let's take a look. Thinks you moved from yes, well, okay. So this is happening in the chat logger. In change location, and let's see, how does this code work? We have an old location number and a new location number. And if they are not the same, let's see, can this fail? This is in data files. This is probably a region info. So get chat region, and we can see that it defaults to 0, which is fascinating. Well, the only place it's used is here. All right, where's location number used? A couple places, 2 of them are here. It starts at -1, okay. Are regions adjacent? Okay. Okay, so that function at least handles things that don't exist. Is region known? Okay, that is great. Those are commented out because they're just testing. Our region same, our region is adjacent. Okay. Great. So what we want to do is save off this value for location number if we're not already. Now that I know what we're looking for though, yeah, okay. So looks like the answer is no. So we want to save this off for the character because location is character specific. And when we save it off, we want to know when the plugin was unloaded, essentially, so that we can do a time diff when the plugin is loaded and reject that value, or not make use of that value. Okay, so let's do that. And let's make some notes here about everything we've learned. Okay, so this is a centralized place to track issues about this bug or feature request. So, chat channels are like regional are often joined before plugins are loaded. Instead of defaulting to unknown, prefer to default to the last known location unless we've seen a regional message since then. Great. So, value is stored in global. So when we're saving character settings, ideally during plugin unload, save location number and the current time seconds since epoch is probably best. Current server time. When loading character settings, when setting location number from a region chat channel message, set global that says we've seen at least one region message. Loading character settings, ideally during plugin load, use the saved location number if and only if it has been less than 60 seconds since it was saved and we have not yet seen a region message. Now, this is hard to read already for me, so I am going to go ahead and make that into a list so that I'll separate it out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and save that as a comment. And then if I come back to this in a week or month or year, I have a better sense of what on earth I was thinking. So value is stored there. Great. When saving character settings, save location number and the current server time. The harder part of this for me is going to be that current server time, because I can never remember what time functions are available in LOTRO and which ones do what and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to do some experimentation. So first thing, when saving character settings, let's find that in the code. So we are in globals? No. Let's go ahead and go back to main, because main had a load data. So it probably has a save data. Great. Save character settings, save current character data, save server settings. We want character settings. Let's go ahead and, you know what, we can edit this. When saving character settings, and this is just calling patch data save. So what we want to do is, first of all, when does save data happen? Just out of curiosity. This only happens during plugin unload, so we're definitely abiding by that hope that this is responsive to unloading. So save character settings, and this is going to be, if we have a region, go ahead and include that in the character settings. So what we want to do is do settings dot region equals this. So we're just going to blow away anything that's already there, because definitionally this is a very transient value. So we want settings.region dot whatever I said this was, location number equals location number. But remember, we wanted to restrict ourselves to only if we had something reasonable for our region, a regionable. So we're going to check this is a region known function and say if is region known, then else, I mean, we can go ahead and just say settings.region equals nil, and that'll stop it from being persisted, and that's fine. So if settings, if region is known, so we're going to go ahead and say location number is that, and settings.region.timestamp equals something. And this is where we're going to go ahead and look at the API, which I haven't pulled up yet today. So it's about time. So in the turbine package, we have engine. And in the engine, we have a couple of things. So we have get date. We have get game time. We have get local time, number of seconds since. I'm very curious what the difference is between those two. Returns a relative game time in seconds. Gets the game time relative. Okay. And get local times. Number of seconds since that. I think that might be on your local machine. Game time is probably plausibly what we want. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we're going to go ahead and not do that. Instead, we're going to say turbine, well, hang on, local game time equals turbine.engine.get game time. Then a local time equals turbine.engine.get local time. And then we're just going to go ahead and spit those out. Debug game time. And we'll do one for local time as well. Great. So we're going to go ahead and load. Nope, that doesn't work. Attempt to call a global imp. I must have mistyped something. What was that? Fascinating. Let me duck in here and see what else I may have managed to mingle. Nothing. Okay. Bunkers. Let's try it again. Okay, and unloading, attempt to call global is region known. Of course, is region known. I should have done data files is region known. because it's in a subfolder. Okay, so that code at least works. Excellent. And we can see that my debug calls are not happening. So that's a thing to take a look on. But I don't actually care about it. I just want to get these out. So let's go take a look at that. Oh, of course. Region's probably not known. So, okay. And unload. Game time and local time are different values. And that's fine. Game time is much more precise. I like that. Local time is probably unnecessary. I'd be a little bit worried about how local time responds to things like daylight saving time or changing the clock on your computer or whatever. And so I'm going to do game time. But I only really want the whole second part of this. So, math.round, math.seal. Actually, we'll do math.floor. Great. Okay. I find it disconcerting if a number suddenly ends with 3 zeros, even though we were really close to it. So I just wanted to see that again. Great. We are dropping off the decimal portion of that. Okay. So game time. We'll go ahead and say that's math.floor of game time, which is turbine engine get game time. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that, and we are going to come back to the save file. And right now we know there's no location because we haven't had that is region known. So we're going to go ahead and load and unload just to make sure. Location, great. And we're going to go load this and set location to the Shire and unload. Because what I'm hoping to find is location number is 6 and timestamp equals something. Great. Now, region info should say number 6 is Shire. It does. Awesome. And the observant among us might notice that the locations kind of peter out after a certain point. And that's because the deeds started getting much more region specific at a certain point. We may notice if we go into Gondor, if we go find a random Slayer deed, it's going to be Oathbreaker Slayer of West Gondor. Whereas in the initial years of development, that would have just been Oathbreaker Slayer in the Western Gondor category. Notice that's of West Gondor, not Western Gondor. Love it. Little variations there. But Oathbreaker Slayer of West Gondor is not the same as Oathbreaker Slayer of Central Gondor, if that even exists. And so there's no need to know what region you are to disambiguate those deeds the way you do have to have through the Great River, at least, I think. So at a certain point, maintaining this stops becoming relevant, but that's okay. It's still a fun exercise in case other things want to know where things are. I can always just come look at this and be like, okay, that's the starting point. Okay, so the second half of this, we have done when saving, save location and the current server time. I ended up choosing get game time instead of get local time because it seemed like, I don't know, because instinct, question mark, and it, yeah, okay, and then added a section to save character settings, and that's in main.luas, save character settings. Great. In load settings, load data, awesome. What do we have? We have load server data. Let's see where we're saving this to. This is deed tracker settings. So I really just want to find wherever this is being loaded. So this is save. And so for load, we're doing save settings. Okay, and that is all of it. And that gets us into settings. If there is a saved location, a recent saved location, use it. So if settings dot, and this is a case where a little split would be very useful so we can see both of these at the same time. So I don't know, if you split down. Okay, so if settings dot region, then and in this if look, if settings dot region, so what do we want here? We want this to be, if that minus that is less than or equal to 60, then location number equals settings.region.location number. And either way, settings.region equals nil. Just kill it. So, does that seem like a reasonable thing to do? Probably. Let's go ahead and found a recent location using it. And this is, how do we get something out of this? Get current region name. Great. But we do need to set location number first. Okay, so let's load this. Can't do that. That's weird. Why did something get deleted there? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and load this. We're going to come into options and say, thanks, you moved from offline to the Shire. Great, we're going to unload that. We're going to load it back in. Attempt to call global get current region name, because I gotta stop not prefixing those data files. My goodness. Okay, found a recent location using it, Shire. Awesome. So if I come in here and do North Downs, North Downs, unload, load, using it North Downs. Great. But what I want to do is I know this gets set somewhere. Location number, that's just in globals. So I think we're beyond that. That's just a default value. Okay. But we did not do location number. Location set by chat equals false. And so what we want to do is in the chat logger, location number equals that, and then equals true. And then in main, if settings.region, say location, and we haven't already seen a chat location, use it. So if that and not location set by chat. Yeah. Then go ahead and do this. And plugins are reasonably single-threaded in that no other part of the plugin, I don't need to expect another part of the plugin to be running while this function is running. So if location hasn't been set by chat here, it's effectively guaranteed to not be set by a chat message in here. So I don't have to worry about a race condition. All right, using character location saved in file, North Downs. Awesome. So one question would be, does it work if I go somewhere? So let's return to Bree. Now we should see a deep tracker thinks she moved from North Downs to Bree message pop up once the regional chat channels catch up to me. Usually that's pretty fast. We can see things moved from North Downs to Breetown, unload, and load. Using character location saved in file, Breetown. Great. If I move out of Breetown into Breeland, usually happens near the bridge. Okay. Things to move from Breetown to Breeland. We'll go ahead and unload and reload. And using character location saved in file, Breeland. Awesome. Now the last thing we need to do is check the timing. So what we want to do is wait 60 seconds and then try again. My goodness, I need clock to stop telling me about focus sessions. I don't know if it's going to. Okay, so we need a 1 minute timer. So what we're going to do is unload and, we could just make this a shorter time period. Hang on. We'll go ahead and load that back up here. We'll just call it 10 seconds for right now. So, so it's using the current code of a 10-second limit, and we'll just note that. So we're going to go ahead and unload and run this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we can see using it. Great. And then we're going to go ahead and unload. No, my goodness. And we'll just let it run for a full 10 seconds. Okay, plus the extra that I was fiddling that around. And great. Which means if we run back in here, we should move from offline to Breetown. There we go. Okay, so that feature is complete. And that's mostly a help to me, a developer, because again, if we are doing even a 60-second time, and 60 seconds seems generous for what we're talking about here, but really we're trying to leave that balance of convenient for me, the developer, and any user who stumbles across this, while not letting you run too far. And how about 15 seconds? You know what? We're going to go ahead and say local max seconds location saved location is valid. And we're going to call that 15. And I could see hoisting that up into options or something someday if we really wanted to. But at this point, I think it's pretty obvious what this 15 is meant to be. The maximum number of seconds saved location is valid. And we have a convenient place to change it or to hoist that value out somewhere else. Okay, awesome. Let's take a look at this. What have we done? So we have a new global variable, location set by chat. It starts to be false. It is set true anytime we set the location from chat. So that will toggle to true and remain true for the rest of the play session. And that's fine. It's just it was ever set. Now, we could do this more simply, I think, if we were willing to say if we have a region. Do we want to be more simple? We might want to be more simple. Let's think about this a moment, because if location is set by chat is kind of the same as asking if we have a valid region. Yeah, is region known? Because that value starts at -1, -1 is not a valid region. So if we did that, if we said and not is region known, then because if region is known, then obviously we can skip this. And if that's the case, then suddenly we do not need location set by chat. So let's come take a look at that. It is set to true here. We don't need it. It is set false here. We don't need it. Okay, let's come take a note. Didn't bother adding a flag to track if region was set by chat. Instead, just see if the current region is valid. Okay, a note for ourselves. So let's come on back to fork. We can see we did not save all. Okay, so instead we have some pretty simple stuff. README file changes. Let's go ahead and save that off. Okay, so we didn't have to do very much. In our saving, we say if the region is known, then we have a weirdness. 145. What's going on with that? Then we set a new region thing whose location number matches that and whose timestamps. Why am I making life harder on myself? Game time. Region.game time. Name things what they are. So we're going to go ahead and replace that and replace that. And again, this is something I struggle with, obviously, because I just did it. But if you are naming something based off of something in-game or a part of the API, just use the same name. We're using the game time function. We settled on that, so the variable can be game time, and then we know what to compare it to. If we're ever curious, oh, there's a game time in the save file. I wonder what that came from. It came from get game time. We don't have to be like mysterious about where this stuff is sourced from. Same thing. If you're in game and or if you're a plugin and you're trying to map something to an in-game setting like strafe left, just go to the options menu, see how they spell it. It's called strafe left with a space. Awesome, great. That's your term. And obviously that is an English biased term. So your plugin may have a different language. That's fine. But use the game term. Don't be like walk left. Like just call it strafe left. And obviously I still struggle with it, but I'm trying to keep that in mind as I'm reviewing my code here before we do a commit. Okay, so we make a new region table. We set location number to location number. We set game time to get game time. Thank you. If region is not... Wizzik says, where's the mystery in that, though? No mysteries! Be kind to your future self. They're probably worth it. Okay, so if the region is known, we're going to do all this. If not, this is actually unnecessary because on load, we're going to delete that thing from settings. So settings, we shouldn't ever get to a place where that thing exists. But if it does, we can delete it. Is it necessary? If we need it, we're creating it here. We always delete it on load. I mean, I feel like it's good. It doesn't hurt to be there for completeness, but oops. Yeah, I don't feel like it's necessary there. Okay. There's no reasonable control flow that would have that structure exist at this point anyway. It does not hurt for it to exist if it does. I think that is reasonable. On the other hand, if it exists in settings for some reason, it is going to still exist there when we load. Is that a problem? I don't think so, because they're still validating that the information is okay. Are we validating it? Let's come take a look. We say if, you know what, this line is too long. Local elapsed time equals this. If elapsed time is less than or equal to max seconds saved location is valid, then, so that's slightly better. Part of me would like to possibly do something about this. The absolute value is just because I didn't want to think too hard about which one I was subtracting from. Game time should always be bigger than the saved game time, but I don't care. If they're plus or minus 60 seconds, whatever. So if elapsed time is less than the maximum valid time, less than or equal, then location number equals that. But do we have a way to see if a location number is a reasonable thing to have? Okay. Are we indeed region? That is not it. Are we indeed adjacent? Are regions same? Are regions adjacent? Adjacent regions. Great. All that's fine. Get region name with a number. Now I could check it against like stuff. Get current region name. No. Get chat region number. Is a region D, that's a more specific thing. function is valid region. And that's going to take a possible region number. The answer is, now, does it matter? It kind of matters. If not is well, actually. Okay, comment. Returns. Oh, you know what? If I put a return true in here and then make my comment block, it will actually know this. True if region number is valid. False otherwise. We're going to say that is a number and then comment. Valid states that a given number represents a region. Okay. So one thing we can just do is say, is it return possible region number, really? Is greater than 0 and possible region number is less than or equal to the number of chat regions. Now, it doesn't have to be a one-liner like this, although this is a pretty classic way to do a bounds checking. We could break it up into like 3 different lines minimum if we wanted to. If it's not too small and if it's not too big. But I think that's pretty understandable. And then the function itself calls out that we're expecting a number. But if whatever we get can be coerced into a number that is between 1 and 39 inclusive, then I think we're doing fine. Do we actually need that, though? I mean, it's a fun process to write it, but if is valid region, setting region location number, then so this is just sanitizing our inputs basically, because if we get something that is not a valid region in there, like apple, I don't really know how this would behave. And so awesome. Oh, yeah, that was a temporary problem because, well, I say temporary problem. That's a problem because I renamed this thing. So it's only going to affect me. Great. Okay. Let's go ahead and trigger a, whoa, why am I on a worsted? Oh, I was testing a thing. Well, no more. Okay, so we have a region change coming on in. Attempt to call global is valid region. 3 times the charm, I guess. My goodness. This is line 208. Okay. We said 15 seconds. I may have actually elapsed there fixing that. So unload, load, using character location, save file, and breed. Awesome. So the real question is if we unload and then location is apple and then we load, attempt to compare number with string. There we go. Okay, so that's region info 60. Yeah. So that should be possible region, local possible region number equals to number of possible region. Coerce that for me. Attempt to compare a number with nil. Awesome, 61. Or -1. Okay, awesome. So that is the level of defensive programming we'd need if we want to prevent that specific problem. But, of course, I didn't actually have the thing. How much that is necessary. So we have a new is a valid region. You know what? I called it out as a number, but now it can be an any. Ghosty says, I have to say that the different colors are practical. It wasn't possible when I learned to program a long time ago. Yeah, I spent a number of years doing C++ programming in Vim on a Linux system, and it did not have this level of colors. And there's a thing that you can do in a modern system, like a modern Windows system, where you just have a colorblind simulation where you just turn everything grayscale or turn off reds and greens or whatever. And it can be very interesting to do that. I don't think it actually affects what is streamed here. I think it only affects what I see. It's currently in grayscale for me right now. And now it's back. And it's interesting if you do that, how many colors are being used that you just stop noticing after a while. You just accept it as extra information. So, you know, the function, the keyword declarations of function return and end here versus the variable names versus the function calls. You know, that can be useful information, but it's also a lot of colors. But I'm definitely grateful to have that as an option. Okay, I think marking that as any is not going to be a problem. So we have a way to validate a region. We have a way to take a number out of the file if it is good. So if data files is valid regions of this thing, then we set location number and say we're going to use it. And is valid region is the new function that says we'll try to coerce it to a number if we can. If we can't, we'll use -1. And then whatever we just got, if it's bigger than 0 and less than or equal to that number of regions, we're good. And then that is slightly fragile in that if you had, like, if this were meant to be a compatibility thing, like a persistent thing, and you had one machine that had 50 regions and one that had 40 regions, then it would be marked as a bad region. But again, this thing is supposed to last 15 seconds or less. Kinesia says, hi, LOTRO needs better graphics and should be made more modern in general. I've heard some people say this kind of thing in general, and I'm not sure what you mean by better graphics in this context. So let me go ahead and take a look in this direction. What would better graphics mean to you? And while you think about an answer for that, I'm going to continue on with looking at this. So, added is valid region function. That's a standalone thing, so we're just going to go ahead and toss it in there. And then issue number 1, I think, actually. Persist current region when unloading plugin. Yeah. Persist current region when unloading plugin. So if we have a region, go ahead and include that. If the region is known, then go ahead and save it out. Okay. Now, why am I doing a floor? Mostly because I just don't want to deal with decimal numbers in a save file. They cause too many problems. Now, you can two-string them, and that'll be your best bet. But if you just have a bare decimal number in a file, it may or may not have a radix separator of comma versus period, and then that just causes problems. And so where you can, try to either stringify your decimal numbers or just don't use them at all. So in this case, I'm using an integer number because I don't need better resolution. If this only works for 14 to 16 seconds, that's still more than enough grace period for the target audience, which is mostly me, and then the occasional person who hit unload and was like, oops, and then goes and loads them back. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say, all right, if there is a recent saved location we haven't already seen in chat, a location, use it. So if the settings.region exists and the region is not known, then we go ahead and have this variable here. We calculate the elapsed time. If the elapsed time is less than the maximum valid time, then if the region is valid, then go ahead and use that and announce that we're using it for anyone watching the debug channel. Okay. And regardless of whether or not it exists or not, blow it away. Lovely. Let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and push that out because I'm curious if GitHub will recognize from that commit message that this is related. I'm going to go ahead and comment that. But yeah, I added a commit that referenced this issue. Issue number 1. Awesome. So, just for my own reference, I can go ahead and copy that commit SHA hash, and then say fixed and commit blah. Close with commit. Neat. And we can go ahead and persist current region on the plugin. That could go in the README. I suppose it will. I suppose it will. So it's not going into deeds, mind you. Bug fixes, features, sure. If deed tracker knows which region you are in when it is unloaded, it will persist. It will save that location off for a brief period. It will include the location in the save files. Well, Genesius didn't respond, so I assume they think the graphics in LOTRO are just fine as they are. Okay. It will include the location if, when loading, if it has not been too long. I don't know. Use that location for a short period when loaded. Something like that. That's fine. Describing things is hard, but that's a README change. We'll get to that later. Okay, so neat. That was just a quality of life thing that I thought would be neat and a good use of the GitHub issues system. So when we come to our issues, we can see number 1 should no longer be there because we marked it as closed. Yay! Okay. Well, as we can see, there's plenty more improvements to do, and I haven't even moved most of the thoughts that are in the old to-do file format on over. But this is a work in progress. And lots of these are just ideas that won't necessarily ever come to fruition, but it's good to have in mind things to make it better. Okay, so let's go ahead and transition into releasing a deed tracker update. I don't think any of the rest of these GitHub issues need to go into a release really soon. That would be nice to have. Let's take a look at this. Take into account manual deed completion times during import from LOTRO Companion. Okay. Now, I think that's going to take too much more time than we have today, but that's an interesting one. Okay, so what we're going to do is sorry, just contemplating this other one. The automatically bump up level caps on legendary servers. That one actually seems pretty doable. So Ithilien suggested for legendary servers, deed tracker could compare the level of the current character with the legendary server cap. If the character level is higher, bump up the level cap to the next increment. So the increment starts at 50, but then it could go to 60, 65, 75, etc. That one seems interesting. LOTRO legendary server. I'm wondering if the legendary server page has a handy list of the level caps. Beautiful. Okay. And Treebeard. You know what? I think we can mark it as closed. Actually, I guess it's technically not closed until tomorrow. All right, I'll hold off. Okay, so this is interesting. Where would I do this? Let's come on into globals. So, legendary server level cap. We have default legendary server cap. Let's take a look at that. Legendary incorrect as of whatever. Okay, I think the actual server cap is 150 still. So I'll go ahead and lead that. Legendary servers. The only two that are currently running are Mordor and Angmar, and they're at 75. Legendary server caps equals and we're just going to go ahead and go through that list here. And you know what? I'm going to be all documenty. Shadows of Angmar, we have 60. And that's going to be the Mines of Moria. We have 3 equals 65. It's going to be the Siege of Markwood. 4 equals 75. Do I want these to be... How am I going to use these? I'm going to say if this current one is greater than the default legendary server cap, 75, then the easiest thing would just be to iterate through this table, finding a value that is higher than that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Alright, Rise of Isengard, 5 equals 85. Riders of Rohan. 6 equals 95. Helm's Deep. 7 equals 100. 8 equals 105. Where we just passed out of for Treebeard. 9 equals 115. Mordor. 10 equals 120. where dragons dwell and vales of Anduin. 130. Minas Morgul War, Three Peaks, and Blood of Azog. 140. Fate of Gundabad. Corsairs of Umbar. Legacy of Morgoth. Okay, so we have this information now. Let's take a look at Legendary Server Cap and where this is. And I guess we want to look at this at two places. Not that. Not that. Set server level cap. All right. Where's that used? Main, set server level cap when we're first loading. Okay. That was right after check character data. So we would be able to use that. And then just there. Okay. Checking character data. We know what level the character is. And we let it register for level change. Yes. Level changed. Okay, that's all a lot, but if level is greater than server set. Where are the server settings? When you just forget. Okay, where is this used? Current level cap equals load server field. Great. If level equals legendary server cap, then this character is higher than the legendary server cap. Adjust it to the next known interval. If we can't find an interval, adjust it to the next file level evenly divisible by 5. Okay. So we actually want this to be function check level against legendary server. we're going to do this. Because that way we can also call it when we first check the level. But we actually really only care about this if we are using a legendary server. So let's see that. Load server field. If not, then return end. Only worry about this on a legendary server. Okay, and then compare. So this character is higher than this. So adjust to the maximum known interval. Okay. For key value, and do we have a for each? So we're going to iterate through each one of them, and if value is greater than level, then save server field, I guess. Legendary server cap. And the new value, which is fee. And this is the, actually we're going to go key and level cap. Okay. I assume that does updates and stuff. I don't remember how rigorous of a system we have here. RealTime says, can't you not use server cap always? I guess that depends. What is the current server cap for all servers? Because the answer is currently either 75 or 150, depending on whether you are on a legendary server or a standard server. So that's what we're doing here is currently the level cap on standard servers is 150, and the level cap on this legendary server, if this was a legendary server, is currently set to 60. But obviously, it can't be 60. My character is higher than that. So what I want to do is go ahead and set my level to what it currently is, 110. DTarker thinks you've changed level 110 and have this value update itself. So, debug. Legendary server cap was too low, changing it to level cap. Return. So we did not find one at this point. So if we can reasonably assume that in the near future, SSG is going to keep server level caps in multiples of 5, if not 10. So, if the current level, like if I've just changed to 110, 110 is plausibly, well, let's say I've just changed to 155. 155 is plausibly it. So if we were to go ahead and say current level, well, let's do a couple of thought experiments. 155 should have a cap of 155. Realtime wonders if the server cap value should be 150 even on a legendary server. And the answer is this is specifically for generally instances that are scaling instances. So for instance, the instances of a Numinos. If there is a challenge deed associated with this instance, and there is, it must be completed at the current server cap. So, for Shadows of Angmar, let's come on in. Let's take a look at a Numinos. So, if the server cap were 120, then to complete a Numinos, we have to, our level has to be the maximum level for that server. Now, some of these also have minimum levels. So if the server cap were 50, I guess that would be okay. But some of these have a minimum level, like, I want to say the Forsaken Inn? Where is the Forsaken Inn? Inn of the Forsaken. That is under Shadows of Angmar. That's fun. Okay, Inn of the Forsaken. No, I guess maybe not. Some of these have minimum levels as well. And there's one of them that's like minimum level 120. Oh, it's Yule, I think. Let's come on in here to Race and Social and coming in for Yule. Where do I start? I start at Anniversary, of course. These battle at Frost Bluff. Let's do my current level as 50 as well. I guess it's not Battle of Frost Bluff. One of these festival ones had a minimum level for the deed at something like 120, but also you have to run it at the maximum level for that server. And so the server cap as a concept is for things like this, like Challenge the Battle at Frostbluff, which must be run at the maximum level for that server, but can be run lower than level 150. And there's, as far as instances are concerned, not scaling instances, that's a lot of those challenge deeds. So that is what's up with that. Maybe Perfect Picnic. That might be. That's a little bit more timely. It's not showing up, and that's okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's what this is for. Real Tough is for those deeds which must be completed at the maximum level for that server, but can be completed at levels below 150, and that's the only reason why these exist. Is for the overlap of those two cases. Oh, I know what it is. Do not include deeds above character level. Maybe. That'll do it. Perfect Picnic has a minimum level of 115. So, the current level on this legendary server, I have said it's 130. So if I say it's 110, then I'm 110. Awesome. Doesn't matter. If I say I'm 115, awesome. Let's go back to 110. So the minimum level, you have to be 115 to do this. Great, I changed that. And then it says, oh, that's fine, but you also have to run it at server 130 because that's what you've said the current legendary server cap is. So those are the two restrictions. Anyway, interesting question. Thanks for the diversion, but that is what's up with that. So what we want is we want a formula that comes up with these results. Little Redhead says they were looking at this wiki today and they saw something weird like 117. Well, I can't speak to that experience specifically, but let's take a look. LOTRO data. The perfect picnic. No, that's not the name of the deed. The whole picnic. The whole picnic has minimum level 115 listed in the data files. Realtime says, I was thinking to set the legendary server automatically. If there were a predicted release schedule for the current legendary servers, so plugins don't necessarily know what server you're on, but they can pay attention to /LOC. So we know that the current legendary servers are at 75, and we know that the next interval for the legendary servers is 85. But what we don't have is necessarily the release dates for Riders Roham and Helm's Deep and Western, Central, and Eastern Gondor. So, well, as a plugin, we could detect, oh, it's probably the next one. We don't know what the max level of the server is as a plugin without some sort of external input. And so if you are level 76 on a legendary server, then the max level is at least 85. If you are level 86, then it's at least 95. We know these things. But when you're logging in as a plugin, with what access you have to the server, I haven't seen any way to say, what is the maximum level on this server? But if there is such an API call, please do let me know. It's entirely possible that I could have missed something like that. I would expect it to be in maybe the gameplay section, maybe just the turbine section. So, you know, if you could come into engine and be like, get max level or something, or, I don't know, player. There's get max morale and power, temporary morale, temporary power, but I don't see a get max level. What is the plugin's configuration? Anyway, but yeah, thank you for the question. So we want a function that does something like this. Now, if we divide these out by 5, then we're going to get 30.8 goes to 31. We're going to get 31 goes to 31. And we're going to get 31.2 goes to 32. So we can imagine if we divide these and rounded up, that we would get what we're looking for. So level divided by 5. If we rounded that, multiplied by 5, then we should get what we're looking for. This rounds up to 31, then we multiply back up to 155. 31 should just round to 31, so we get 155. 31.2 should round to 32. You know, I said round. We really want ceiling. Ceiling. Okay, so if we can't find an interval, adjust to the next level. So local next interval equals math.ceil of level divided by 5 times 5. And we'll do instead guessing that next interval is that. And then we're going to save next, I said next interval, next cap, possible cap equals that. Okay, and that gives us our two things. Our next cap guess based on this example. Divide by 5. Do the ceiling, multiply back out. So let's see how that looks. Great. Okay, so that's checking the level against the legendary server cap. We are going to do that when the level is changed. What I also want to do weird. Okay, check character data, great. Where does check character data happen? After load data and update data, great. Oh, there is a server level cap. Well, let's go look at that. Okay, that is happening here. So, legendary server level cap. If it is legendary server, then check legendary server against this current one. Where does this happen? Just in the one? And in options. And we're setting the server level cap, and legendary server, and if it's a legendary server, great. So 2-number load server. If default is greater than. Yeah, okay. iQuasar asks, whom is this stream backer? Like, is this SSG or Daybreak? This is the official Lord of the Rings Online Twitch channel. And so primarily it is people who are fans of Lord of the Rings Online but are not employees of either Standing Stone Games or Daybreak. However, there are a few regular streamers who are employees at Standing Stone Games who do stream over here on the LOTRO stream channel. Cordovan is the community manager, and he streams at noon server time, which is Eastern time in the US, on Fridays. So if you're looking to stay up to date with what's happening with Lord of the Rings Online, that's a great place to start. And then some of the other employees will pop up occasionally as well. But mostly the people you see over here at LOTRO Stream are just fans of the game. I in particular am fans of writing plugins for Lord of the Rings Online. That's why you'll see all of this stuff that is not the actual game in front of the game, and not me running around. Although I should go and try and catch that golden egg before too long. Okay, so if it is legendary server, then we're going to do that check against the legendary server, check level against the legendary server, and then in there we're going to be affecting that legendary server cap, and then we're going to use it. Okay, I feel good about that. iQuasar says, oh, can I ask a plugin question? Absolutely. I may not have an answer, but I can certainly give it a shot. Dame High Pacha says, hi, I just want to say a quick thanks for the festival, buddy. Absolutely, although as I will point out multiple times, I'm sure Festival Buddy started with someone else. I want to say it was Garen, possibly. Let's go take a look. And I just tried to update it a little bit and add some features. But the original, Galahad, the other G1. The original Festival Buddy was a Galahad project. And Festival Buddy 2, I just tried to do what I could to modernize a little bit, catch up to date with some of the festivals. I'm way behind. I haven't added anything new about this festival or Midsummer, but life's been busy, so I'll get to that in the coming few cycles, I think. But you're very welcome, of course. And yes, iQuasar, definitely, if you have questions about Lord of the Rings in general, it's on topic. If it's plugin specific, even better. And I may or may not be able to answer it, but I'm happy to give it a look. iQuasar says, old age is catching up, and I lose the mouse cursor a lot in 1440p gaming. Is there a plugin that makes the cursor more friendly to spot, either contrast, inversive, or something that makes the cursor pulse? I think there absolutely is something that draws circles around the mouse. Other people in chat may have their own ideas, but let's go over to LOTRO Interface, which is my source for LOTRO, and just type in mouse and see what we have. So don't worry if you see something in outdated LOTRO interfaces. Interfaces can be not updated for years or decades and still work fine. So just try it out and see how it goes. If we sort this by downloads though, which is a way to kind of measure its rough popularity, mouse cursor highlighter advanced. Let's take a look. So here are some of the possible highlighters. It says, okay, that's interesting. And all sorts of stuff. Let's take a look at another one. A mouse finder. This is one where the plugin is active when you are in combat unless you configure otherwise, and only shows the circle while the mouse is moving. So if you want to find it, you kind of wiggle your mouse and then you see a big circle around it. That's one I've seen other people using, and I think it probably strikes a good balance between there when you need it and not there when you don't need it. So you might like Mouse Finder. That was by Thorolore, and Thorolore is well known in the plugin community as having made some pretty good plugins. So I suspect that one works pretty well out of the box. Mouse gestures. How interesting. That's not what we're talking about though. So Mouse Finder X, let's take a look at that. This is a different dotted circle looking thing. Oh. Interesting. I'm not sure how that is different from the other mouse finder, but that's okay. Other than Thurlor is no longer active in the plugin developer community, so that may be someone taking it over. And then mouse circle. Let's take a look at that. Circle. It sure is. So maybe this is a little bit smaller and more along what line you're looking for. But I guess I would say I would start with mouse finder as a good starting point, or maybe Mouse Finder X if you're looking for Thurlor's plugin, but maybe under more active development. And there you go. Adra tested it and likes it. So yeah, Mouse Finder or Mouse Finder X, that's where I would start. And this is the kind of plugin that you can install once and you never need to worry about it again. Something else you might like is the opaque quest tracker that I put together a while back. I had a friend who also was starting to have some difficulty distinguishing things in game, and one of the things that was irking her particularly was the quest tracker, and how unlike the chat box, which you can change the opacity behind it, there wasn't a convenient way to change the opacity behind the quest tracker area. So this is just a rectangle. You can change the size, you can change the background color, and you can change the opacity. And that's it. And the intent is you throw it behind the quest tracker, but you can throw it behind anything on the screen. You can throw it behind the whole screen, whatever. So you might find that is a useful way to help make this text a little bit easier, because that is certainly a thing. If we come on into some of the stuff I'm working on right now in Mordor, just add those to the quest tracker, and then look at something where with a lot of busyness in the background or something. Yeah, like that. Maybe. Yeah, certainly, depending on the background colors and whatnot, that may be easier or harder to read for some people. And that was the goal, is just to give it a little bit of a background color. So give that a shot if you're having any struggles with reading the quest tracker, and maybe that makes your life a little bit easier as well. Nice. Okay. Neat. What else are we looking at? So we need to do some testing to see is the legendary item server cap, save that, is it paying attention to my level as I level? So if I level up to 45, awesome. I can do Barrow Down's survival now. Yay me. What if I level up to 50? Okay. What if I level to 51? Okay. I didn't see. Oh, maybe I forgot to unload and reload this after all those changes. Oh, legendary server cap was too low, changing it to 115. That is actually correct based off of my character level. So let's go ahead and change my level to 49. To compare number with string, let's fix that. Plugin functions, that's line 545. And so that's this level. Let's do that. And my character get level returns a number, and that's fine. I'll just go ahead and force it there as well. Great. So I'm currently 49. The legendary server cap is 50. We're going to go ahead and go to 50. Oh. The server cap was too low. That's great. So I need to figure out any place that's using, yeah, there we go, and not use that. Instead, we want to use this. Oh, right. It's our current level cap. That's probably fine. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so if we go ahead and set our level to 50, and then set this to 50, awesome. If we then go to 51, legendary server cap was too low, changing it to 60. Great, but we did not see an update in the options here. So it would be nice if we could update that. But is there an obvious way to do that? Okay, so these are legendary server cap. Check details. Let's take a look at this. So we are getting a label, and we want the text box. So the text box, are we saving it off? We are not. How do we refresh this easily? We're going to do something. Option controls equals this, and then add option. This is an add option, great. And this is going to be, oh, add server field. Add server field, okay. So this is going to be option controls, and we want to go ahead and use the field name dot text equals text box. And why am I changing it up? Dot text box equals that. And then we're going to add a function, update option text box with the field name, and then if option controls field name, then, well, and option controls field name dot text box, then we'll go ahead and take that, set text to be field name and updated text. Set the text to that. So what I want to do is update the option text box inside save server field, probably. Field name, field value. Great. Maybe that's all a thing. Let's find out. Whoa, not so fast. So we're going to go into options 103, attempt to index. Yeah. Option equals that, or we could in fact that's fine. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, we'll go ahead and set ourselves to 116, and it updates. Yay! Okay, so basic. I mean, we could actually say this is not a legendary server and test that same thing out on level cap. So if this is 151, so we want to change the level cap on standard servers as well someday to this. So let's go ahead and think about that for a minute. But in the meantime, if we are level 49 and the legendary cap is 50, but this is a legendary server, there we go. And then we change to level 51, that goes to 60. If we change to level 60, no problem. If we change to level 61, that goes to 65, awesome. And again, if we're in instances, I think that's going to make a lot more sense. Okay, so let's go to 65. What is that save button doing that we're not doing? Check D data. Okay, is check D data not happening? Okay, so let's go ahead and unload this, reload this, okay, and then let's assume that my level is 50 and the current level cap is 60 on this legendary server. Great. So if we go up to 61, then the level cap changes to 65. If we go up to 65, that thing still thinks it's a server cap 60. I'm not convinced that I've done the right thing here. Set server level cap, yeah. If field name equals, then so if the field name equals legendary server cap or field name equals server level cap, then we do want to go ahead and set server level cap. Let's see if that solves the basic problem that, well, that's not going to work. Okay, options 165. That's not a Lua way of typing things. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and set my level to 50. Let's go ahead and set this to 60. Okay, so 61, great. So minimal is 65. Okay, all that resolves, great. Let's go ahead and go to 66. Things you've changed level 66. Legendary world's too low, change to 75. Setting server level cap to 75. Great, that's fine. So 75. Changing my level. Now we can do North Rotten Farm. 76. Awesome. 86. All right, 96. 101. 106. 116. 121. 131. 141. And why not 151? Okay. Legendary server cap was too low, guessing that next interval is 155. Love it. So if we go ahead and set that to 155, it's just fine. 156, it goes to 160, and so on. Now, in the last couple of expansions, we've been going by chunks of 10 levels, but I feel like they're hearing some community desires for lower level numbers. So I guess it wouldn't surprise me if the next release was only 5 levels, but I don't know if we've heard one way or the other. Okay. So we have a thing that seems to work. Let's go ahead and look at what code we've changed and see if we're happy with that. Okay, in main, we have a call to check against a legendary server for the stated character level. Before we do that, okay, in globals, no, in plugin functions, we have this. So if we're not a legend server, don't worry about it. If the level is greater than the cap, well, if it's not greater than the cap, then we do nothing. If it is greater, then we're looking for the next one, and we're using the save server field to do this. And if we can't find it, just fake it. In level changed, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're dealing with a number. And you know what? In level change, that should be backwards. That's 568 plugin functions. We want to do level equals to number first, because if the result of that is nil, we do want to bail out here. It shouldn't be empty at that point. It might be 0. That's all fine. So we do want to swap those. And we're doing a check on 578. When the level is changed, we will check against the legendary server as well. That sounds plausible. Where else? Options. We have some options controls that we can save off. We're not doing this very widely, but we'll be able to fill that in going forward to have a more responsive options screen if we change things in other places. Okay, and then we have some custom code for the generic save server field. In case that field is a level cap, then we can go ahead and call this function. That's a way to centralize the logic. Not sure how much I like that. And then we're moving the check deed data elsewhere into set server cap, I believe. Maybe. Where was I? Ah, yes. So check deed data. Would hopefully be in set server cap, but let me see where did that move to? Into set server level cap. So that centralizes that. So any call to set server level cap is going to check the D data for us. Okay. Plugin functions. We have this. We have that. That's fine. The README can be updated as part of this. README features. If your character's level is higher than the configured server cap, that cap will adjust and then the configured level cap, the cap will automatically adjust. Okay, this is specifically a legendary server fix. The cap on regular servers changes much less frequently, so I'm a little less worried about that. And again, I would just have to guess 5 levels as a sort of a minimum jump. Okay, so what's going on in globals? I kind of skipped past that. We added the legendary server caps. And up to those. So we updated that, and we updated that. Did minimum server cap information. That's pretty minor. Added known legendary server caps. Although Treebeard was the highest recent legendary server, and it only got up to 115 before they consolidated that down. So Angmar and Mordor are moving a little bit faster. They're probably going to move beyond 115, but I guess at this stage, it's anyone's guess if they'll hit 150 before circumstances change. Okay, so added on the legendary server caps. Added on the use them. Check against the legendary server. Where is this? 378 in main. I want to see what that is. 378. Oh, it's the check deed data. Yeah, that's fine. Because that is moving this, stage that, and stage that. And so we don't need that anymore. Okay. So options control, so we can have a responsive UI. And that. Plugin functions, we have the check against legendary server. Okay, and we call it, we'll go ahead and stage that. Okay, great. I worry about something like that becoming a problem because I've only tested it so much, and we're not testing in situ, and I'd hate for there to be some sort of error message. So I'm going to do a little bit more testing while I think about this. If I set that, yeah, okay. So if I set my current level to 56, and I try to set the legendary server cap, it's going to hit this code sequence. And we're going to say legendary server cap was too low, changing it to 60. Setting server level cap to 60, and we're getting that called a couple of times. That feels like some redundancies. So, setting a server cap to, okay. So we're calling set server level cap a couple of times here. What's up with that? So this is the function. We're calling a main once. That's not happening here. Save server field. We add the option. Okay, I'm going to refresh my memory. What do these options do? What does the callback do? Oh, that's interesting, yes. So that saves the server field and then calls the callback. But now, yeah, okay. So this and this are no longer needed, I think. Let's go ahead and unload and reload and take a look at that. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and set our level to 67 and then set the level to 60. And we're going to see, okay, but now what if we set it to 55? Changing it. So setting server level cap to 60, great. Now we're only seeing one too many of those messages. Now this shouldn't be too hard to find. I'm guessing it's because we're calling save server field a couple of times. Sometimes it can be easier just to throw a stack trace in here. So if you haven't seen this before, let's take a look at this. We're going to go over to turbine engine and get call stack. And get call stack, we're just going to go ahead and get a string back from it so we can print that out. So let's come into set server level. And then we'll go ahead and turbine.shell.writeLine. And this is going to be turbine.engine.callstack. Now, callstack can take parameters, but I don't know what the use of them is. So I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm curious, though, what that will do. So we're going to come in here, set our level to 56, and then come on do a 55. And what we're going to see is the first one comes from save server field in check level against legendary server field. Okay. And the second one comes from save server field in options. Oh, that's funny. Let's come take a look at that. So options 97. So we're in the click there. So we're attempting to go into save server field, and that says set server level cap, and then that says setting server level to this, but we're in main, yeah. Okay, so check the level against legendary server. So it's because we're canceling that. Okay. Nope. So in set server level cap, which is getting called from our attempt to save. We come in here, and then saving server field is doing a re-entrancy thing. Do we care about that? I mean, it kind of works. Now, one thing we can do is current server field save equals nil. We can do something like this and say if current server equals field name, then return end. Otherwise, equals that. Otherwise, this equals field name. Now, you do have the problem where, I mean, this shouldn't be reentrant, but let's go ahead and do this instead. If this field name, then return end. Otherwise, current field of field name equals true. And then at the end of this, we can say current field save of field name equals nil. And then you would stop the reentrancy. Is that a problem? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Let's come take a look at this. So if we're level 56, and then we try to change this to 55, then legendary server cap was too low, changing it to 60, and then it comes back to setting server level cap to 55. That's fascinating. Okay, so we do want that reentrancy, as it turns out. Okay, so it yanks out the value from underneath it. It aborts its attempt to do 55 and stores it at 60, and then comes back through and restores it at 60. I don't think that's actually going to be causing us a problem here. I think it's a bit silly, sure, but I don't think it's going to cause a problem. So in main, we're going to go ahead and kill that stack. Because that's a lot of information. But that convinces me that while it is doing the thing, it's probably okay. So if you do a single one, we end up bipping in there twice. But if we try to change it to 60, we just get a single one, 65, single one, that's fine. And then this, if we change to 66, so I think the fact that you shouldn't be setting the Legend of the Server cap lower than your current character level anyway. So the fact that we do a re-entrancy thing there into that function doesn't actually bother me too much, because that's not the happy path flow. The happy path is you either come in and manually set this to be 85, awesome, in which case we just do it, or you come in and you become level 86, at which point dtracker says, oh, must be 95, and everything is happy. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I'm happy with that. Let's not overthink it too much. What do we do over here? Okay. Removed redundant calls to set server level cap. All right, we're going to push that out. So I think what we've done here is all we need to do for this specific issue. Okay, and for that, we're going to go ahead and copy a few of these, fixed in commits. Okay. Oh, Control C, nice, okay. And that. And we're going to go ahead and close with comment. Did I actually update the README file? I think I did. If character's level on a legendary server is higher than the configured level cap, the cap will now automatically adjust. Okay. Well, there was one more thing that I thought we were going to do. I think, let's go ahead and see if we can't rush through a plugin release, because that'd be great to just get this out the door. I'm going to go ahead and minimize a couple of things though. So we have a show debug options. I'm going to go ahead and just mark that as false and then undo it so that my working directory is clean. This is where it should be. And then we can go ahead and, while we're thinking about it, do some posts. Now I said this is version what? I didn't. 3.2.2. I should go in and change the plugin description file. So we're going to go into documents. This is going to go into Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, Q plugins, that's me, and we're coming into the dtracker plugin. I'm just going to open up that .plugin file, and this is going to version 3.2.2. Awesome, there's that. And then we're going to go ahead and do, copy, paste, 3.2.2, and 3.2.2. Okay, so 3.2.2, this is the text that's going into the LOTRO forums. And 3.2.2, this is going over, I gotta clear out some of this stuff. This is going onto the LOTRO interface, so we'll start with this. Okay. Now, if we wanted to, we can go ahead and view word wrap just so we can see all of this text. Specifically, we are coming in to the updates. My chat disconnected momentarily, but I think it's back. All right, so this is going to be a September release, version 3.2.2, and then we're going to do a summary thing. However, there's a lot of stuff here, and I want to move some stuff to the older revision history. I also could update some of these links. So, version, I think anything from before 2025, I'm going to move down to older. Also, anything that is a forum old should be changed. Hi, little one. Yeah. You know you're going to come over here. I'm going to pick you up, right? Hey. Oh, I know. I know. It's your least favorite thing in the world. I know. Okay. Definitely because of the microphones in the way. Okay, so what we want to do is come on over here to the deedtracker.lifebeyondtheshire.com. And we're going to come on over here to release notes. And what I've done is I went ahead and archived things off on this website that were over on the forums. And if you've got anything like this, you've got until tomorrow, I suppose, to grab this information. So it's just the text. And so what we want to do is update these links, which are about to be dead anyway. Public release notes are here. Okay? And then we're just going to go through each one of them. And I'll just open them all. And here. Okay, so version 1.3. Great. That was 1.2.2. One of the nice things about this is you can actually meaningfully see the version number in the URL instead of it just being a forum post. This is 1.2.3. This is 1.2.4. This is 1.2.5. I'm just saying that to try to keep me on track because there's a lot of lines here that look very similar. This is 1.3.1. This is 1.3.3. This is 1.3.4. This is 1.3.5. This is 1.3.6. This is 1.3.7. And 1.3.8. Now, that is where the older ones had stopped, and I'm proposing moving some newer, more recent ones out. Actually, I don't know, at a certain point, now that I have a place for these to be stored, I don't know how much of the utility there is of having an extensive release history here, but I do kind of like it. So we're gonna deal with that later. Okay, so that's the older release notes. Here's the more recent release notes, and we'll just update those links as they are here. We'll revisit that. Okay, so this is 3.01. Oh. Yeah, 3.01. That's forums old, so we do want to replace that. 3.02, yeah. But 3.03 does have a place on the more recent forums. I don't know. Maybe we'll go ahead and... No, we're good. I did not remember the new forums coming in 2 years ago, but time flies when you've got a bunch of other things to do. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and just be happy with that, and then come back up to our release here, which is all the things in our release notes that we've been updating. So let's come take a look at that. Or README, I guess I should say. Okay, the main thing is actually going to be over here, which was updated from that. Added U44 and U45 deeds. What is U44 and U45 deeds? Retro releases? Updates. The wiki has a handy list of the names of things, so that would be the Crown of Hamât. Update 45, Allies and Adversaries, deeds. Anything else of note? Fixed some minor issues with deed hierarchies. What else? Indentation feeds. That's fine. Hierarchy. Yeah. Okay. Added those deeds. Fix some minor issues. And then, yeah, release notes are here. I'm just going to copy paste the previous one, and then we'll update that link once we have a link to update with. Okay. None of the rest of this really needs to change. We haven't changed anything fundamental here. So that's the LOTRO interface page. We can do the forms description while we are waiting for our upload to go. So let's go ahead and do that next. I'm going to unload that. And then what do we have here? We have, Cube plugins over here. And then we're going to come into documents, plugin along releases. And then in our releases folder, what we want to do is start with the previous one. This is dtracker 3.2.2 now. And bring in the files that have changed. And I'd like to do a last minute comparison here just so I know that what all is coming in. Okay, so we know we're getting our 322 plugin file. We're going to go ahead and expand, and so if it is in the data files folder, it's almost certainly automatically generated, except for the deed info, and we reviewed what differences there were there. Really? Fascinating. And there's a lot of differences in here because I'm trying to move the encoding of information about the deed back into here instead of being off in that preprocessor I was mentioning before. Laband says hi in chat. Hello. Welcome to Plugin Along, where we are talking about the plugins of Lord of the Rings Online. Okay, so data files, I think that's all going to be good. We're going to copy those over. Greetings from Chile. Well, hello, here on kind of the other side of the world from where I am, which is the Netherlands. All right, we do not care about all these special files, so we don't care about Git, we don't care about... Oh, that's interesting. VS Code, no. Source files, website, no. But globals. That's funny. We do want all of that. Do we want, should it be debug options in there at all? Probably not. We're going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so globals can go over. Main. Yep, that's the changes we made today. That's great. Options. That's the changes we made today as well. Plugin functions. We're deleting vocation stuff. That makes sense, but I don't remember doing that. What's up with that? Removed code that refers to vocations. I mean, I do like that. But we should add that into the to-do file, or the README file. Okay. Remove code that refers to vocations. I assume vocation. Yeah. Laban says, I'm new. Excuse me, what is the best server PvP in North America? I'm glad Xavier has jumped in there because I don't play a lot of PvMP at all. But Xavier has pointed out that Glamdring is the best option there, and I think that probably makes sense from what I know. So they are doing a server consolidation right now. So right now, you should only be able to create characters on a few servers. So originally it was Glamdring and Peregrine in North America. There's 2 legendary servers that are available anywhere, but Angmar is more North America targeted. So if you're playing on a standard server, those were your options, and then I think they brought out one more, which would be either Orcrist or Sting, maybe? But Glamdring certainly seems like a solid choice there, since it's the less role-playing focused of them. I could definitely believe that more PvMPers are drawn to it. And coincidentally, they are already playing on Glamdring, so that works out great. Very cool. Well, thanks for checking in. Okay, so that was removing vocation stuff. Awesome. So removing those vocations, great. And the new stuff that we brought in, perfect. But that's what I mean. That's why I like to do this kind of a check, is sometimes stuff creeps in, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But, you know, if stuff's in there that you didn't realize was in there, that's where we can start having problems. Okay, so we don't need the reloader. They're either underscores are my things, and starting with a dot are special files. So we're doing great. Okay. No, I don't want you to do that. So we're going to go ahead and put that back. And there's our show debug options equals true. Okay. So we have a 3.2.2. Great. What we want to do is go up one level, and we're going to make a new zip file into which we want the Cube plugins folder to reside. So we're going to go ahead and say new compressed folder, and we do have to remember to fix the name. Great. So we have a 3.2.2, and we're going to take our Cube plugin contents and drag it in there. If you try to create it in another way and Cube plugins isn't the root, then you're going to run into problems where the LOTRO plugin compendium doesn't work right, or people extract it and things don't show up quite in the predicted place. So it's good to be consistent with your creation of your zip files. So the previous one had Cube plugins at the root, so this one has Cube plugins at the root. Great. Just to sanity check, we can see that is 322. Great. Just checking on one other thing. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so we have a zip file and we have our LOTRO interface file. So let's go over to lotrointerface.com. And we can go ahead and list my interfaces. Sure. On deed tracker, let's do it. And on the plugin page that you're doing an update, in case you haven't done this recently, let's go ahead and look at the update. So we're going to go ahead and do edit. You'll only see this button if you are logged in and if you're the one who made the plugin or post in the first place. And we're going to go ahead and say edit. So we're going to go to 322. We're going to replace 321 with Here we go. Had to find it. So with the tracker 322, great. And then we need the text for here. Well, that's fine. We just did the text here. So we're going to go ahead and copy this over. That's the 322. And if there's an error in there, we'll fix it as we go. So you can delete old archived versions in this interface. I don't feel the need for that. If people want to download a really old version, I guess they can. You can adjust your images that you have, but we didn't change anything functionally enough to justify that. We can allow updates and add-ons. Sure, we could see one up there. Someone posted some Russian strings, and I'm trying to roll those into the main body of Deed Tracker for those few, I guess, few people who use this with the fan translation Russian client, and that is it. Update. So you can click here if your browser does not automatically redirect you. It did. So remember that when things are uploaded, someone over at LOTRO Interface presumably has to go and manually approve it, and this can take between 0 and all of the time. So try not to be too impatient while you're waiting. They have lives, they have jobs, and sometimes they're just not available right away. It's unusual for it to take more than a couple hours if they are awake, but there's no guarantee of responsiveness on their part. So try not to do this minutes before you need it to go live. Have a backup plan of sending the files manually to someone or something. But a couple of days is usually more than enough time. Sometimes it's literal minutes. So we're going to come on over here to list my interfaces. We can see DTracker says it's updated. And it says it's version 322. So perhaps they're watching and they were ready for it. Probably not. But they get a little notification, and they can, presumably, if it is a person who does a lot of plugins and has passed the automated checks, perhaps they're a little bit faster on it than if it's a brand new person with a questionable product. I don't know what the process is behind the scenes. I can only muse and speculate. So what we wanted to do is double check, do these links look okay? So this link comes on in and gives me those release notes all the way up to 3.3 and 3.2. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. 3.2 directs to there. 3.3 comes on over to the new forums. Great. All that looks wonderful. And we have our recent revision history, which goes to 3.2.2. And the release notes are, and this is where we can go ahead and create our forum post. Now, I should probably sign in or register. Ik ben geen robot. And it'll think about that. Okay, so what we want to do is come on into our forum descriptions and start updating this. So it's now available. This release adds updates, and we can borrow some of that language from over here. Adds. Was I doing lowercase u? No, I was just spelling it out. Update 44, kind of Hamât, and update 45 deeds, and fixes a few minor issues. That's pretty much what I said over here. Okay, so what we want to do is have the actual release notes, which these usually just come from the README. Removed some code that refers to, no, it's pretty much all the code at this point, I think. If I say a search for vocation, to do file could change. Okay, that's all of that. I feel like that could go to nil. Oh, that's the name of it, yeah, sure. Convocation. Yeah, okay, so that's all pretty reasonable. So that to-do file think that's a reasonable thing to say is done. Okay, so we have this, and on the forms description, we can go ahead and mimic what we see here, which is to say we're going to make lists, bulleted lists for each of these sections. And we can go ahead and outdone this once. So we're going to do lists, and just why not, we can do sub-lists as well. And I'm just manually creating them instead because they're small enough that I don't consider it to be a problem. And then we need to close off each of the lists. Okay, so that one and that one. So that's the largest of them. And then we can do something very similar for the next couple. So list, and list, end list, and end list, and bullet. Bullet, bullet, bullet. And then the old one can go ahead and go away. And that's it. That is the forum description version of it. So we're going to come on over and copy that to, have I read your privacy policy? Last updated. Wow, that does not work well with the dark reader. All right, well, I probably agreed to it, but I'm going to come back to that later. Same thing with the terms and rules. I'll open those and review them at my leisure. But I suspect I'm good with them. So we're going to come on back to here, refresh to make sure that it knows that we're signed in. Great. And then I am going to go ahead and reply to the first one here because I don't understand how threading works in this system. And I'm going to go ahead and paste. No, paste it here and then do a preview. And we can see all of the bulleting is working just fine. So we'll go ahead and post that. And then we need to share copy that and bring that back into our LOTRO interface one, where we can say the release nodes are there. And that just gives you the specific linking into that post number. So take that information, come on back into the plugin, updating only the text here, and update. Okay, so what do we have here? We have, should be pretty identical, except we can go ahead and click through to that, and it takes us directly to the 322 release. And we're good. Okay, 3, 2, 1, great. You could be the first person to, nope, someone else has already emoted on it. You could be the second person to emote on this forum post. Thank you, John M. Hammer, for being very on the ball there. Okay, so now we do need to come on back into our source control because we've made some changes here. And what we want to do is version 3.2.2 artifacts. So this is a new form description. This is updating a to-do file, and this is the README file. What did change? Reload it, yeah, and then add the other. Great. So that's the version 3.2.2 artifacts, and then we can come on into our commits, and we can go ahead and mark this as v322. So we're going to go ahead and do a new tag v3.2.2, And that'll be very easy for us to find the exact version of the files that we released into the world by getting that. And we put it there instead of here because while these do change things, they don't change the code that went out. These are internal files only, and they are a part of the release. So I think it's better to put the tag here rather than the technical end of the code freeze, because then these 322 things would be a part of 323 branch. If I was doing branches, it'd be weird. So that's just my reasoning there. Okay. So that gives us an updated deed tracker, version 322, with those new deeds that we are talking about. And then, what level do you think I am? I don't know. I'll go ahead and set it to 110 just in case it cares. Current level cap on this legendary server. Well, you know what? We're not on a legendary server, so I can't do some of these deeds until I hit the standard server cap of 150, which is going to be a while because I only just took off my Stone of the Tortoise. Hey, last couple of minutes here, we're going to go ahead and do the egg hunt, try and get that golden egg. So now is a great time to get any last minute questions, comments, concerns you might have into chat so we can have a few minutes to look at them. I'm going to take advantage of the festival horse over at Mickle Delving to get myself over to the festival where there is a horse to get me to the Sanson's farm. And I'm also going to get rid of all these quests. Remove all. Okay, so to Farmer's Fair. And then to Sanson's farm. There we go. Fantastic. We're at Sanson's farm. If you ever zone in here and are tempted, don't bother mounting up because there's a block on mounts just as you come in here. Last I checked. Yep, there we go. So you'll only get it for so long. Let's go ahead and accept that. Wave at our fellow competitors. Maybe they just finished. And come on over here and expect to get all of the golden eggs. I'm prepared for success. In the meantime, I've got my Fateful Toolkit on, so I'm going to crack open some previous white eggs that I had farmed. Well, found anyway. Alright, we may in fact have some competition. I'm going to check my graphics settings. I don't really like them to be ultra high, but I also like the post-processing effects to be off for this particular challenge. Because I want to clear the rotten white eggs from the field so they don't show up in my select next item, which for me is bound to delete. So I do want to consume them just so they're not in the way. I hope that doesn't actually reduce my chances of getting a golden egg, but I don't know. Hello, fellow competitor. I am highly aware that developers could take into account things like how many players there are, what time of day it is, how many rotten eggs have already been gobbled up by players. They could take this into account to figure out if relative percentages for drops for golden eggs. And my hope is that they don't do that. But I'm aware that they could do that. And so that makes me question all of my choices regarding the egg scramble. Okay, I'm glad for the neat musical sting that tells you the thing has started. I was watching a video the other day and the game audio was coming out of my speakers and I was on headphones, and Little Redhead's like, hey, it started, because she could hear the musical difference even though I didn't necessarily hear right when it started. Alright, that's not as festive as I want it to be, but it's still pretty festive. Alright, both of those players are actively grabbing eggs. Sometimes people are just AFK, and that's fine. Or AFK, if you prefer. Acronyms over initialisms. Probably less so now than when this quest used to be on a 1-hour timer. See, I'm going to clear one of these rotten eggs just because I don't want it to be on the field. When this quest had a 1-hour timer, I think people probably were a little bit more blasé about burning through it. But now that you have to wait until the daily resets, yeah, I try not to waste my my chances. Yep. Just easier if I don't have to tab through eggs and wonder, is that one of the bad ones? Lag was favorable to me, or delay, I suppose. I'm doing a lot of keyboard navigation both for turning around and for selecting things, because I don't feel the need to be really fast in my turning with a mouse. But if I was concerned about that, I would be using the mouse for navigating around, or at least changing my camera angles. Only 4 out of 5 eggs. I am not going to get credit for this. Womp womp. And that was going to be number 10. Oh well. Also, no golden eggs, which is very sad face. Let's toss the rest of these eggs away. I have another character who keeps all of these various eggs for when I want to use them. Really? What's going on there? Okay, they're all in there. But the white eggs are, of course, bound to your character, so those are not going into shared storage, because that would not be helpful. And I got 0 golden eggs, which makes me sad. Oh well. Well, I think that is going to bring us rapidly to the end of this stream. What did we accomplish? We went ahead and released an updated deed tracker with all the deeds I added in from the last 2 updates. We also walked through a couple of the bugs or features over on GitHub that seemed very accomplishable over here. Endel says, oh, you got a red and green striped one. That's the only one I'm missing for the deed. Well, if you are over here on Peregrine, I'd be happy to send you one. I'm not sure what server is your home server. How many of those do I have? Also, have I been using alt inventory on all my characters? I sure hope so. Oh, of course I don't have alt inventory set up right now. Sadly, you're on Glam. Oh well. Well, maybe on someone on Glam doing is willing to trade. I have completed all of the relevant deeds except for the golden egg in the farmer's fair, I think. But you know what? Oh, all of my plugin data files are somewhere else. And it says, didn't know you could trade them. I think they are not bound. Well, you know what? I should check my assumptions. Yeah, the white eggs are bound to the character that picked them up, as is the golden egg, I believe, although I've never seen it personally, but I've heard. But all the other eggs are not bound. You might even find them in the auction house. That's the wrong button. Let's go check out the auction house. Delicious egg, please. Now, we can see at least 1 egg, but I might want to figure out, where is this? Probably Festival. Let's search under Festival. And we can see over here on Peregrine, the going price for eggs seems to be between 15 and 50 for some of them. Some of them are kinship locked, and that's why we're seeing really low prices over here. So a plain old red egg going for whatever. Now you said a red and green, so if I said a red and green, oh, I need an ampersand, and green, we can see that there's 3 of them up over here on Peregrine. Cheapest one's 32 gold. That might be a lot of money for you. It kind of depends on your personal situation. This character has 1,262 gold, so I could certainly splurge on a couple of eggs if I was really wanting to finish off those particular deeds Because sometimes, I mean, it's all luck of the draw for the eggs appearing at all, and them being the ones that you need for your deeds. And so that's why I have a collection going on one of my alternate characters where she just stores them all. Here, let's see if I can remember which one she's on. I think Wenda has them. Waiting for log out to complete. Thank you. Okay, let's come take a look at my egg collection, because I'm curious. And this is over the course of a couple of festivals. This isn't all this festival, not at all. And also the consolidation from 4 different servers over the last couple of weeks, as I've been getting my stuff off of various 32-bit servers, including but not limited to Brandywine, Landerval, Treebeard. Maybe it was just from 3 onto a 4th one, but I already had some characters on Mary, I think. Well, that's funny. Okay, get rid of all that, and come on over to eggs. Great, so let's just store some of these off. I don't actually have a list of what all ones are available, but for some reason I get a lot of red eggs, so I'm guessing that's one of the more common ones. There you go. I've got two red and green striped eggs and 16 red eggs. So you are not alone in seeing red and green being a rarer drop. 1 yellow and red for all of that. So obviously I think it's pretty straightforward that the solid ones are more common and they get less common as you go. I have yet to get a golden one, but I don't really want to do it on anything but my completionist, because if I got a golden egg on a character I never play, I would just be depressed, because that thing is also bound to character, and I would just be sitting at looking and be like, you could be on my main and you're not. What's going on? Oh well. Alright. Well, other than Antol's needing that red and green egg, I haven't seen anything else come into chat, so I think that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins and egg farming. I hope to see you here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.